So this is the fourth and last song in this song cycle collection, a collection of 4 songs which I co-wrote with lyricist Pinar Ali and which were recorded by a local professional recording studio. If you want to hear the other songs and you haven't done so already, I will leave a link in the description to the other 3 so you can check those out as well. Now, if you saw the first one, Diamond City, you may recall that I said one of the songs had a very brief brush with fame, and this is the song, Where Were You? Now, as usual, I gave the studio a lead sheet containing the words and the chord symbols and the notes as well, and also an audio recording so they could pick up the tempo and get the vibe right, which they generally did. And as I have shown you the original documents for the other songs, I see no reason to break with tradition. So these are the words, and this is my scribbly notation. It is in 2 parts. I guess that's just to show that I did actually write these songs. I find it very difficult to throw away pieces of music. This song was also recorded by Jim Douglas, who also sang Love Is a Game. Now, this was another bad salad according to Mrs. Spooner, and Jim was very good at sad ballads, so I think he did a really good job of this recording. The backing vocals were done with a harmonizer, I think. I'm pretty sure they didn't have the mass voices of St. Paul's Cathedral Choir in the studio at the time. So overall, I think it was a pretty good demo tape. So as usual, I parceled it up and sent it off to music publishers. Now, one of the publishers wrote back and said, can we submit this for the Eurovision Song Contest? Now, I didn't know whether to be pleased or insulted. It depends on your view of the Eurovision Song Contest, but who is going to turn down an offer like that? So I said, yes, of course you can. Now, I'm not sure how the UK picks the songs for the Eurovision Song Contest at the moment. I think there's an element of audience selection, which has varied over the years. But back in the 80s, I can't remember exactly what year this was. It was probably in the mid-80s, mid to late 80s perhaps. But at the time, the BBC would broadcast maybe 10, 15 or 20 songs, I don't know the exact number, and the audience would vote on which song they wanted to go through to the contest. So in order to get this final selection, the UK Eurovision Song Contest Selection Committee, for want of a better phrase, would ask music publishers to submit songs for consideration. Now, this was only open to music publishers. Individuals could not submit songs, which seems entirely reasonable, otherwise they would have been inundated with thousands upon thousands of songs, I'm absolutely sure. So this is what this publisher wanted to do. They wanted to use our song to submit to the Eurovision Song Selection Committee. However, there was a little bit of a snag. The song apparently was too long. It lasts for around 4 minutes and 20 seconds. But they only wanted a demo song of, I can't remember the exact length, but to my mind it was very short. I would think 3 minutes is probably the maximum. I have a feeling it might even have been shorter, 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. But let's go with 3 minutes. Now, this song, as I say, was 4 minutes 20 seconds long, so I was thinking, how can this possibly be cut down? Well, you can cut a verse out, so you get a verse and a chorus, cut the instrumental out, verse, chorus, repeat the chorus. It just wasn't going to work. I just really couldn't see how this song could be pared down to 3 minutes. Now, I thought the publisher might rearrange it and make their own version of the correct length, but they didn't. As far as I can tell, all they did was, after the 3 minute mark, they just faded out the song, which was pretty crazy. So it was not a surprise to learn that it didn't get into the final selection, which was eventually broadcast on the TV. So fair enough, life is full of these little disappointments. But what I found even more disappointing than that was the fact that the publisher didn't even pick up on the song. They liked it enough apparently to put it in for the Eurovision Song Contest, but they didn't like it enough to buy it or license it or to offer it to any of their artists. Go figure, as they say. However, the story of the song doesn't quite end there. Now, at the time, I was working as a gigging musician on the cabaret circuit, so I met a lot of singers, and I met Jim because he was working on the cabaret circuit as a singer as well, and he obviously knew a lot of the other singers on the circuit, and one in particular was called Karen Carter. I worked with her many times. She was a lovely person and a great singer. Now, you might think that merchandising is a relatively new phenomenon, but it wasn't. It was going on back in the 1980s. And many of the singers who did the cabaret circuit would have their own recording of popular songs, which they would sell at the venues. Now, these were arranged by professional musicians and recorded in professional environments, and some of these records were actually really very good. So one evening I was working with Karen Carter, and she said, "Oh, Ian, by the way, I've recorded one of your songs." So my first reaction internally was, "Oh, really? Where did you get it from? And who gave you permission to record it?" Because none of my songs had been taken up by a music publisher. None of my songs had been published. So externally I just said, "Oh, really?" And it turned out to be Where Were You? Now, going back over 30 years, my memory can't quite recall exactly how she came by the song, but I have a couple of assumptions. The first is, as she knew Jim, he may possibly have said, "I know you're making a new recording. I've just recorded a super song which you might like to include." So that is one possibility. Another possibility is that the music arranger who she used for her recordings was present in the studio while Jim was recording Where Were You, and perhaps he even performed on it. Or she might have had a bootleg demo from the studio. I admit that last scenario is very unlikely. However, she was kind enough to give me a copy of her recording, which I think was absolutely the least she could do under the circumstances. So this also made its way onto my rediscovered tape, so I now have two versions of Where Were You, sung by two different people in two different arrangements, which is quite interesting. So that means this song has the pleasure of being the most widely listened to song of all the songs I have written. It was heard by the UK Eurovision Song Selection Committee, and assuming Karen sold a few copies of her tapes, and it has been heard by however many people she sold it to. However, having said all that, I doubt that the total number of people who have heard this before gets very far into three figures. But now it's on YouTube, so it is open to the world. Now, I was wondering whether to put just one version of this song on this video, but I thought, well, let's put the two on, because I have different feelings about the two of them, and if you are kind enough to listen to them both, which I hope you are, I would really appreciate your view on which one you think is the most interesting or the better, which one you prefer. If you can say why, that is a bonus, but you don't have to. Just say, "I prefer Jim's" or "I prefer Karen's," and I'd be really interested in that, because they are two very different arrangements. So you get this song twice, back to back. Now, I had hoped to show you a photograph of the cover of Karen's recordings, but I had a big clear out around 6 months ago and I can't find it. I have no idea why I might have thrown this away. It doesn't make sense to me now. Perhaps it made sense to me at the time, or perhaps I put it in somewhere for safekeeping, which is so safe I can't remember where I put it. However, I can't show you a photograph of the cover, which I do recall featured the lovely Karen Carter herself. So instead, for both versions, I've created two different sets of visuals. I've deliberately tried to keep them fairly simple, so you aren't distracted too much by the images and can concentrate on the music. Now, I did say in one of the other videos that my rediscovered tapes includes other songs which I wrote in the 80s, which were recorded in my own little studio, but which were lacking in certain types of instrument. So although I think the songs were quite good, the production techniques and the quality, I think now from this 30 odd year perspective, were a little bit lacking. So I'm not really sure that I want to put them out there for everyone to hear. So if you do like the song, and or if you found this video and my little discourse interesting, then please do consider subscribing and ringing the bell so you get informed of new videos as soon as I release them. And as always, I do very much appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos and listen to my music. So for that, thank you very much indeed. So here are the two versions of Where Were You? Let me know which one you prefer. And thank you again for watching.
Sorry. Sometimes I feel like I can go on, but somehow I just hold on and on. There's someone else like me, alone so long, just holding on like me. Where were you when I needed you? You just weren't around when I needed someone. Where were you? I was on my own, waiting all alone. Where were you? Where were you? Someday I'll have someone close to me. Until then, I'll just dream on and on. Somewhere there's someone else like me, alone.